Welcome to the second part of nephrotic syndrome. In the first part, we have discussed about the clinical features that are presented in nephrotic syndrome, and we have also seen about the reasons why these symptoms were developed. Now, we will discuss about the consequences of the changes that have been brought about by the nephrotic syndrome. That is, what are the functional consequences of loss of plasma protein? So the very first is thyroid binding globulin and thyroxine may lead to hypothyroidism. So as we can see that the thyroid gland do utilizes globulin and thyroxine, and if there is an reduction in the amount of these protein, can lead to hypothyroidism. Vitamin D binding protein might lead to osteomalacia, but rare. Total calcium is also low due to low albumin level. Transferrin and erythropoiesis and microcytic hypochromic anemia may be seen. Acute renal failure is a rare in nephrotic syndrome. In whom it occurs, patients are elderly with minimal change disease. Now, the signs and symptoms include anorexia, malaise, puffy eyelids, retinal sheen, abdominal pain, wasting of muscle, and edema. Most often, the edema is mobile, detected in eyelid in the morning and in the ankles after ambulation. Focal edema may be the reason for seeking help for some complaints like difficult breathing. That is, if the edema occurs in the pleural cavity, that is pleural effusion or laryngeal edema. Difficult breathing may also occur, that is due to this reason. Substernal chest pain, that is caused due to pericardial effusion. Scrotal swelling, that is scrotum would swallow up. Swollen knees, swollen abdomen, and abdominal pain with edema of the mesentery. An early sign of nephrotic syndrome is frothy urine. In presentation, proteinuria is usually uh, more than 2 grams per meter square per day, or the urine protein creatinine ratio is more than 2. Orthostatic hypotension and even shock may develop in children. Adult may be hyponormal and hypertensive. Oliguria and even acute renal failure may develop because of hypovolemia and diminished perfusion. Prolonged nephrotic syndrome may result in nutritional deficiencies, including protein malnutrition, myopathy, decreased total calcium that can lead to tetany, spontaneous peritonitis, opportunistic infections may be seen as we have discussed about the infection, coagulation disorders due to coagulation defect, episodic hypovolemia are a serious thrombotic risk, and hypertension with cardiac and cerebral complaints might also be seen, as you can see in the picture. What type of edema can be seen, that is periorbital edema, and also edema in the feet is quite visible. Now, how do you differentiate it? We do differentiate it from heart failure, cirrhosis, and glomerulonephritis, where due to heart failure we have symptoms associated with cardiac region, and also that is hypovolemia might be seen, and hypertension also. Cirrhosis is a disease of liver, so here also we can see as the liver was having an increased effect. So now, how do we diagnose nephrotic syndrome? That is by urine analysis. This is the primary source where we can find protein in urine, and urine sediment examination can also be done to see if what all is coming along with the urine. Urine protein measurement for 24 hours, that is 3 to 3.5 grams per 24 hours, would indicate nephrotic syndrome. Serum albumin level can also be examined, as it could be on the lower side. Serological studies for infection, that is, the person is having repeated infections. Renal ultrasonography and renal biopsies might also be seen. These are some important definitions that we can. Now we'll see into the management. The diet in the patient with nephrotic syndrome should provide adequate energy intake and adequate protein also. A diet with no added salt will help in limit the fluid overload. Management of hyperlipidemia could be of some importance if the nephrotic stage is prolonged, as hyperlipidemia might lead to even more graver disease. Fluid restriction per se is not required. Ongoing activity rather than bed rest will reduce the risk of blood clots. Now we'll see into the minimal change glomerulonephropathy. That is, how do we know it? It is also known as Nell disease. There is lipoid nephrosis, food process disease also, as we have seen the podocytes present. So there is some distortion in the podocytes. 80% of nephrotic syndrome in children are due to this minimal change glomerulonephritis. In adults, it might occur in the second and the third decade. Etiology, idiopathic loss of net negative charge on capillary basement membrane. That is, we exactly don't know how it happens. So as we can see here, in the structures here, we can see the differences, how these podocytes have degenerated and made some change in it. Clinical feature, the history of recent urinary tract renal infection in 30%, association with Hodgkin's lymphoma, overlap with focal segmental glomerulosclerosis patient. Lab features selective proteinuria, no specific laboratory finding as such can be seen. Spontaneous remission in 25 to 40%, complete remission in 65 to 70% of patient. And if the patient is steroid resistant, it might lead to the other form of sclerosis. Then we have the other type, that is membranous glomerulonephritis. It might occur later in the age, where 40 to 60 years of age, 50% adult nephrotic syndrome are due to this membranous glomerulonephritis. It is idiopathic in most patients, associated with infection, drug, carcinomas, and heavy metals. Pathophysiology describes it to be diffuse uniform basement membrane thickening with subepithelial projection. Spikes might be seen. Diffuse coarsely granular IgG and C3 deposit along basement membrane. Electron dense subepithelial deposits might be seen. Clinically, nephrotic syndrome in 80% and asymptomatic proteinuria in 20. Microscopic hematuria, non-selective proteinuria plus hematuria. Clinical course, excellent prognosis in children. Same adult develop end-stage renal disease. Exclusion of other diseases required. Membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis. What occurs in this is chronic immune complex glomerulonephritis associated with chronic infections, systemic lupus erythematosus, cancer, cirrhosis, heroin abuse, that's a drug. It occurs more in children and youngs. A diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis with thickening of glomerular capillary and glomerular basement membrane splitting. This is known as tram tracking. Diffuse coarsely granular C3 and IgG deposits along the basement membrane. Electron dense endothelial deposits might also be seen. Clinically, nephrotic syndrome in 50% and acute nephritic syndrome in 20%. Recent history of infection in 50% and hypertension and renal insufficiency might be seen. For diagnosis, complementemia of classic and alternate pathways, C3 nephritic factors, circulating immune complexes might be seen. Clinical course, progressive deterioration of renal function, short remission in stage renal disease within 10 years in 50% of children and 80% of adults. Now, what about the diabetic neuropathy, which is secondary in origin? Nephropathy complicates 30% of case in type 1 diabetes and approximately 20% in type 2. Supportive clues are the presence of normal size and enlarged kidney, evidence, proliferative diabetic retinopathy, and a bland urinary sediment. Retinopathy is found in 90% and 60% of patients with type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. The earliest morphologic abnormalities nephropathy are thickening of glomerular basement membrane and expansion mesenterium, prominent nodular matrix expansion are often found. That's all with the nephrotic syndrome. Thank you.